Hey guys, hope you're having a great day, gonna have an even better weekend, and welcome to the video. So, I've gotten a few things painted this month, and, nothing amazing. No, hey, I painted an entire army in 24 hours. None of that. Just some basic testing out some color schemes, getting to grips with things, and seeing if I can up my game in some of the stuff like I did with this Nova Marine. This was some blind box from Target I was given. Isn't he just the stern guard reposed tiny bit? I don't know, but I really like the paint job I did on him. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how I go about making paint jobs and figuring out what I'm going to do things. I start from, well, one, a basic interest in a unit, for example. Like, I like Krieg, so I had been gifted these guys. Oh my lord. When their box came out, I was gifted them. And I quite like the Krieg, even with the revisions and some of that. I still like them. I still like the Krieg, I still enjoy them, so I started from this basic enjoyment of these guys. And I got inspired by a random painting video because I was looking at some different ways people were painting Krieg to get some ideas. Another good way to farm some ideas or at least pick up some techniques. And I came across a video by Sonic Sledgehammer with a Gloom Trench guy where he did a Home Guard Air Warden or a Warden from World War II, I believe. And I was like, that's a really cool idea. So I came up with the idea of calling these guys like the Krieg Old Guard or something of that matter. And the idea being that they're kind of the old age and treachery unit. So I came up with this idea of this paint scheme just from some random stuff and wanting to try a couple different techniques using the orange brown on this. And the idea was that, oh, well, I'm going to build these Krieg guys whose entire job is that they go around to different worlds and they basically get the local populations when there's a lack of true Imperial Guard support or there's not enough Imperial Guard. They drum them up and organize them slightly better to do at least a moderate resistance. And they were meant to go up against my brother's orcs for a campaign where they were invading a largely undefended agri world. And these guys had been sent in to kind of hold things until the proper guard could arrive. And I just thought that was kind of a neat paint scheme and a concept for them. When I was working on this Orlok. I like Orloks. I had the idea of kind of making them based around being couriers. So they're an actual courier service within the Orloks that move information between one group, part of the gang, and another group, part of the gang. And that they've kind of created their own kind of cornering of that market, and they use that. So I have them basically wearing a few different colors where they look a little bit less like a normal Orlok, but yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to do. But whenever you're doing something and you're trying to come up with what you're going to do, one thing I always like to start from is what is their job? What is the thing I want them? So if they're like a, let's say, Space Marine chapter, they're really easy to explain. Like their Space Marine chapter. So I found this old Assault Marine and I ended up having to rebase him because the base got cracked. So one thing, let's say that maybe they are wardens or protectors of a certain world. So they have to deal with a local population and administer. Maybe they're not massively into administration, but maybe they pick up let's say it's a feudal world. They pick up the colors and arms of maybe a local king or a lord, and to kind of show their blessing of them. And maybe let's say it's something like they're half green and half orange, and because they're dealing with a kind of feudalistic world where there's not going to be a lot of ambushing or things like that, That's their standard colors. Now, of course, you could always have them have camo colors and things like that, but you're trying to come up with something that looks nice on the tabletop for a game. So a half yellow, or half orange, half green, half yellow, half green, blue, red, blah, 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 blue, orange even. You could go with something like that. Well, let's say maybe they are doing something a little bit more grim. So let's say they're on a crusade. They've been founded to do a crusade in this one part of a sector that's overrun with volcanic worlds and ashen worlds. You go with a really kind of ashy black or a very dark gray, and then maybe what you do is in some of the areas you add a little bit of a kind of darkish red to add a little bit of color, maybe give them green lenses or yellow lenses, and you basically kind of represent that kind of volcanic world that they at least have their beginnings around. You can do a lot of different things. The idea, I'd say, is when you have an idea for what they do, work off things that would make sense from it. So if they're a policing force, look at like what you'd see with police. Maybe they wear a lot of blues, and maybe they mix blues, grays, and blacks. Maybe they have a gray blue that they use. Use iconography that would make sense in a policing sense. The idea is take the task they're meant to do and use that as the basis. And also the story. What's the story that you're going to give these guys? What's the story you're going to play out with them? The thing is not to beat yourself up and give yourself paralysis when it comes to making choice. Give yourself some kind of focus towards that helps you find things to help you make those choices. Again, there's nothing wrong, for example, with going with a completely established force. Let's say like this Nova Marine. You can look at how Nova Marines tend to fight, what kind of tactics they prefer, all of that. Then you add your tiny little spin to it. Maybe this force is set up to be a fast attack force, or maybe they just prefer to having this or that kind of thing in them. Maybe they prefer armor. Maybe they prefer this. You add your own personal little twist, building off what's already established. There's nothing wrong with just painting something that's already been made and figured out, then just finding out what, well, one, you enjoy with it, or your own personal spin. Making your own thing, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to beat yourself up about how to do it. Just try things out and see what appeals to you, what you want in the long run, and go from there. You're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to find out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you find nice and what you don't. And ultimately, here's my number one suggestion. Find a model that you don't mind having to strip, and strip it as many times as you need. Just a model that maybe you don't love, maybe you don't hate, maybe you're okay. Test your things out on it. Document each step you're doing on maybe a piece of paper or a word pad or whatever it is. Document what you're doing, and that way you can recreate it without having to worry too much. And just try things out. I liked marine teals, but I couldn't find one that worked for me until I found this combination I went with from Huge Miniatures and the shading that I had made myself to get the right hue. I also got the whitish gray with that kind of dirty grayish look you'd see on like a NASA spacesuit once it's been in space long enough. The point being is I got what I wanted out of my painting from trial and error. And what I'd say is set yourself up for success. Figure out what you're shooting for. Get actual real world inspirations. Test things out with models that you don't mind. Document what you're doing and go from there. And most of all, look at every little success you have as another point at which you're getting better. Don't beat yourself up if you're not a world-class painter. Just find where you are happy with things. And, well, again, if you have anything that you want to ask me, or hey, maybe you want some feedback on what you're doing, just let me know in the comment sections. I do tend to give people my opinions, not always the best opinions, but I'll see you then, and you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful day. Bye bye.